My dad and my stepmother got married when I was 9, and I'm 17 years old now. They have 3 kids together. My mom died when I was 8, but my parents were already divorced, and I think my dad was already dating my stepmother at that point. Either that or he or they rushed the relationship because they assumed I would need a new mom because mine died. It was a crazy as heck time. My dad and stepmother decided we needed therapy together because she was struggling and wanted to communicate some stuff to the two of us that she had not before. In therapy, she started off talking about how she feels like she's second best, or a consolation prize with me. She feels like I see her as less than a parent, less than a mother, and it hurts. She talked about marrying my dad, expecting we would be so close, and how she believed a newly motherless child would need someone else to fill in. But that the whole time we've known each other, she feels like I do nothing but compare her to mom or dismiss her in favor of mom and leave her in second place a lot. She said she wanted to be more important to me than that. She wanted to be a mom in my eyes. She didn't want to feel like I would gladly toss her aside if my mom came back. I'll say now, in therapy, she was called out for that. She was told it was cruel to toss that in my face when I'm old enough to be aware my mom is never coming back. She spoke for several sessions about feeling second best like the consolation prize, and like I don't care for her at all. She brought up how I never hug her, or how I correct anyone who mistakes her for my mom. Another thing was the fact I have never said I love you to her. She noticed that, and she said many times she waited and waited for me to say it, but it never came. She talked about how every mention of my mom hurts her down to her core because she can hear how much I love my mom. She admitted to hating my mom, to wanting to wave a magic wand and have me forget her, so she's not coming in second to her always. There were lots more things said too. I was asked to address what she said for several sessions, but I knew it might come across as cruel if I did, so I refused to engage. But my dad kept pressing me on the issue, and the counselor was trying to reassure me that I would not be penalized for speaking up. After a lot of pressing, and then my stepmother got involved and told me to speak because we needed to work through this, and she needed me to acknowledge her feelings and work on us coming together, I was honest. I said she was never second best, or a consolation prize because she was never in the running. I never saw her as mom. I never considered her to be a possible new or second mom. I never ever looked at her in that way or wanted her to be that for me. And that she was always competing against my dead mom for nothing. My dad and stepmother were so angry after I said all this. 2 weeks later, and it was mentioned in therapy, but they're still furious with me. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot at all. It's great when a step-parent can bond with their stepkid and form a healthy, agreed-upon relationship. That is not what she has done. Your dad's wife is completely delusional, and what she said about your mom, wishing she could make you forget, is absolutely crossing a line. You have a mother you love. Just because she can't physically be here doesn't take anything from the love you have for her, or the fact that she is your mom, not dad's wife. I'm so sorry your dad is taking her side when he should be on your side. You have done nothing wrong at all. She needs to understand your feelings so she can approach you differently. Everything you said in therapy is completely fair and valid. Don't let them make you think or feel otherwise. She may want to hear you say, I love you, but unless you mean it, the words mean nothing. And saying it just to appease her would be dishonest. I'm sorry for your loss, though, and I hope your dad's wife is able to learn and understand boundaries with you better. Comment 2. Not the idiot? They pushed for an answer, and you gave an honest one. They don't have a right to be angry at you because they didn't like your response. I am a stepmother, and I have no children of my own. My stepdaughter treats me like a friend, a confidant if she wants one, and I help her navigate situations with a different perspective. However, she has a mother. She doesn't need two, and I would never try to undermine that. I don't understand these blended families, where the step-parent insists that they want equal status as a biological parent, especially where the biological parent is deceased, and then get upset when the child resents them for it. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my last post and for all your support. It's been a tough week since the therapy session, and I wanted to give you an update on what's been happening. After the session, my dad and stepmother barely spoke to me for a few days. The tension in the house was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I tried to stay out of their way as much as possible, spending most of my time in my room or at school. but I couldn't avoid them forever. A few days later, my dad came into my room and sat down on the bed. He looked at me with a mixture of anger and disappointment. "I can't believe you said those things to your stepmother," he said. "She's been nothing but good to you all these years, and this is how you repay her?" I tried to explain that I never meant to hurt her feelings, but that I was just being honest about how I felt. But my dad wasn't having it. "You need to apologize to her," he said. "And you need to start treating her with more respect." I knew he was right, but I also knew that apologizing wouldn't change how I really felt. I didn't see my stepmother as a mom, and I never would. But I also didn't want to keep causing problems in the family. Later that day, I found my stepmother in the kitchen making dinner. I took a deep breath and walked up to her. "I'm sorry for what I said in therapy," I said. "I didn't mean to hurt your feelings." She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I just want us to be close," she said. "I want you to see me as a mom." I didn't know what to say. I couldn't lie and tell her that I saw her that way. But I also didn't want to keep hurting her. "I'm sorry," I said again. "I'll try to be better." But the truth was, I didn't know how to be better. I couldn't force myself to feel something that I didn't feel. And I couldn't forget about my mom, no matter how much my stepmother wanted me to. As the week went on, things didn't get much better. My dad and stepmother were still angry with me, and I could feel the tension in the house. My stepbrothers and sisters seemed to pick up on it too, and they started avoiding me as well. I started spending more and more time out of the house, just to get away from the awkwardness. I hung out with friends after school and on weekends, anything to avoid going home. But then, something happened that forced me to confront the situation head on. My dad sat me down one night and told me that he and my stepmother had been talking, and they thought it might be best if I went to live with my grandparents for a while. I was shocked. I couldn't believe they would even consider sending me away. "But why?" I asked, trying to keep my voice from shaking. "We just think it might be good for everyone to have some space," my dad said. "Your stepmother is really struggling with this, and we think it might be better for you to be in a different environment for a while." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. They were actually considering sending me away because I didn't see my stepmother as a mom? It seemed so unfair. But as I thought about it more, I realized that maybe it wasn't such a bad idea. Living with my grandparents would give me a chance to get away from the tension and awkwardness at home. And maybe, with some distance, I could start to figure out how to navigate my relationship with my stepmother. I told my dad I would think about it. But deep down, I knew I had already made up my mind. As much as I loved my dad and my siblings, I needed to do what was best for me. And right now, that meant getting some space from the whole situation. I know it won't be easy living away from my family, but I also know that I need to do what's right for me. I need to figure out how to be true to myself while still being respectful of my stepmother's feelings. It's a tough balance, but I'm determined to find it. Thanks for reading, everyone. I'll keep you updated on how things go. Am I the idiot for doubting my wife's pain and blaming her for overreacting before knowing the full story? My wife, 32 years old, and I, 34 years old, went to the gym yesterday morning, and at some point my wife, we'll call her Laura, scratched her finger on something. Laura has a history of being selectively sensitive to pain and discomfort. She is a strong and capable woman that I love, but if it's 80 degrees with a breeze, Laura will talk herself into it being too cold to stay outside. The joke between us is she is like the princess and the pea story. These things happen often. I am not exaggerating in the slightest when I say this time the cut was less than 0.5 centimeter wide and 2 millimeters across, just surface level, no larger than a paper cut. Later that night, she remembered the cut and had what I would describe as a meltdown. She said her finger pain was throbbing. She was feeling nauseous from the pain and said it was becoming too much. I offered to clean it with hydrogen peroxide, but she said it would hurt too much. I said it bubbles but doesn't burn like alcohol, and you need to clean it if you cut it on gym equipment because it's dirty. As soon as I put a few drops of hydrogen peroxide on it, she collapsed to her knees and said she could not continue. I admit I got a little upset at the theatrics, but it was nothing new at this point. Then, after I rinsed the wound in the sink, she is still on her knees crying. I told her I was going to get Neosporin and a Band-Aid, to which she begged me not to add Neosporin because it would hurt. I explained to Laura that Neosporin actually would cause no pain and even add potential relief. She yelled when I put it on and nearly fainted. At this point, I was a little upset and potentially the jerk. I tried to explain to Laura that her body was very resilient and she is a tough person, because I've seen it in our workouts and the way she can work through brutal work challenges and environments. However, she needs to work on her psychological hang-up on discomfort like this. We want to have kids in the next 2 years, and in all honesty, I don't think she can handle childbirth right now. I said it's something we can work on together, but to start, she needs to get serious and adopt the mentality that her body can handle a lot. I told her it's upsetting that she seems to just give up and surrender to any pain, like she has no will to shake it off. What example would we be setting for our child? What would happen if you were injured and needed to get help without me? We ended up getting into an argument about this. I feel like a jerk, but I don't know how I could have approached this differently. Edit context. First, I would like to thank everyone for sharing their thoughts and suggestions. Second, I would like to clarify that I am one of those lucky few that married someone they consider their soulmate. Despite my comments coming across as callous and patronizing, I love and care for my wife tremendously, and I don't believe she sees it that way. However, I'm here for that outside perspective. I'll be with my wife until I'm dead or she finds someone better. Even if that means carrying her around for the next 80 years, lastly, while we have visited doctors in the past, we may not have placed enough value on getting another opinion. That is something I will bring up with my wife again. I do not typically hold an opinion when it comes to my wife's medical care. I believe I may have an old-fashioned approach to doctors, as I have had some bad experiences with misdiagnosis and overprescribed treatments. My attitude when it comes to my wife has always been to get the care that she thinks she needs, as I cannot make that decision for her. We both acknowledge there are differences in the way we pursue medical care. I have never suggested her symptoms or desire to meet with a doctor were not legitimate. When she had not gotten to a diagnosis from doctors and they suggested treating it like it was nervousness or anxiety, we both kind of considered it psychological, a pain in the butt, but not overly serious and something we could work on. As my post here would suggest, that is easier said than done. It's a huge gray area trying to figure out if you are being too controlling or if you are enabling. My wife does not have red hair. Till, hydrogen peroxide is no longer recommended for cleaning wounds. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. You literally described how my 5-year-old reacts to cuts. Selective pain and serious overdramatics. I am working with him to understand that these things are part of life and just a normal part of taking care of your body. I snapped both bones in my arm recently and almost died giving birth a few months ago. Pain is a fundamental part of the human condition, and I try to model and discuss that with my kid. As I tell my son, crying is fine if you're hurt. Refusing to handle the care of your body with equanimity is not. Your wife is crazy immature, and if you do have kids with her in her current state of behavior, you're going to raise kids that behave the same. Comment 2, not the idiot. Always funny how Reddit wants to jump to the conclusion that the victim has some rare neurological disorder rather than the more likely scenario that she is just whiny. If you fully believe your wife is a healthy adult, yes, that seems like annoying behavior. My thoughts are the same as yours. I wouldn't want to put this person through pregnancy and childbirth. What if they are alone with the child in a situation? I want my mother's child to have the strength to carry on. I don't think that's an unfair expectation of a healthy adult. Now, for the update. Thank you all for your comments and insights on my previous post. It's been an eye-opening couple of weeks since I last shared about my wife Laura's sensitivity to pain and discomfort. I've taken the time to reflect on your advice and have had some important conversations with Laura. 2 days after the gym incident, Laura woke up with a fever and chills. The small cut on her finger had become red and swollen, and she was experiencing severe pain in her hand and arm. I immediately took her to the emergency room, where they diagnosed her with a serious bacterial infection. The doctors explained that the infection had spread rapidly due to Laura's compromised immune system, which we were unaware of until that moment. As Laura underwent treatment, I couldn't help but feel guilty for not taking her pain more seriously. I realized that my frustration with her sensitivity had blinded me to the possibility of an underlying health issue. The doctors ran some tests and discovered that Laura has been living with an autoimmune disorder, which explains her heightened sensitivity to pain and discomfort. This revelation has completely changed my perspective on Laura's experiences. I now understand that her reactions to pain are not a choice or a lack of mental fortitude, but rather a result of her body's unique challenges. I've spent the past 2 weeks educating myself on her condition and learning how to best support her moving forward. Laura and I have had some deep conversations about our relationship and how we can work together to navigate this new reality. She opened up about how my dismissive attitude towards her pain had made her feel invalidated and alone. I apologized for not being more understanding and promised to be a better partner in the future. We've also discussed our plans for starting a family and how Laura's autoimmune disorder may impact that journey. While it may present some challenges, we're committed to working with her doctors to ensure a safe and healthy pregnancy when the time comes. Looking back, I realized that my own experiences with doctors and misdiagnoses had influenced my perception of Laura's situation. I had assumed that her symptoms were psychological, just as some of her previous doctors had suggested. However, this experience has taught me the importance of advocating for thorough medical evaluations and trusting Laura's instincts when it comes to her health. As we move forward, I'm committed to being a more supportive and understanding partner. Laura's diagnosis has brought us closer together and has given us a new appreciation for the strength and resilience of the human body. We're taking things one day at a time and focusing on Laura's health and well-being. Thank you again for all of your advice and support. It's been a challenging couple of weeks, but I'm grateful for the lessons we've learned and the growth we've experienced as a couple. Am I the idiot for buying the family house and asking my parents to keep it a secret from my sister? So I, 28 years old, female, recently got the opportunity to purchase a house that has been in the family for quite a while, 80+ years. I have been staying at home with my parents rent-free for nearly my entire life. I occasionally contribute with groceries, dinners, household chores, and yard work, but they have never charged me rent despite me offering. I work in public education and don't make great money, so it has been very helpful to save up. I started the purchase process and have locked in an interest rate and have nearly everything ready. The closing date is set for a month from now. I have asked my parents not to say anything to my sister, 26 years old, female, until I close and start to move because we don't get along well, and I don't want to deal with the fallout I believe will come. She has also been living at home, but instead of saving money, she spends quite a bit. 2 new cars within 3 years, large tattoos, vacations, etc. She has a large storage unit filled with stuff she claims she has bought for when she buys a house. I don't care how she spends her money, but she makes significantly more than me and has wiped most of her savings out by living like this. Instead of them waiting like I asked, they went ahead and told her. They claimed it was too difficult to keep it a secret and that she knew something was going on. Now she is basically throwing a tantrum, saying that it isn't fair I get to buy a house and she doesn't, claiming that they never helped her with anything, etc. Every time she sees me, she is pissed off and starts a fight. I told them that this was what was going to happen, and they claim that they couldn't have known, didn't think she was going to act like this. I feel like I am rightfully upset about this, but they say I am acting like a child and need to just get over it. Am I the idiot? Edit. I really truly did not think this was going to get as much attention as it has. Here are a few answers to questions I keep seeing. 1. I am not getting any kind of monetary discount on the house. I got first offerings because the relative who is selling it asked me first and I said yes. The only thing I am getting is the washer, dryer, and snowblower that they're leaving behind. 2. My sister has been shown the house by my parents. Now that she knows. I found this out about an hour ago, and she has commented on how ugly she thinks it is and that she hates it. She claims she wouldn't have wanted it anyway, but is still very angry about it all. 3. The house overall is about $200,000 in a MSCAL medium cost of living area. It is 4 bedrooms, 1.5 bathrooms. I am not planning on getting a roommate. I would prefer to be alone. 4. This house isn't sentimental to her or me in any way. We didn't grow up going to this house for holidays or gatherings. We have both been in it maybe 3 times prior to me purchasing it. 5. I don't believe my parents are being intentionally disrespectful/rude/spiteful. I believe them when they say it was hard to keep it a secret. I just wish they would have listened when I asked them to wait. 6. My sister and I have had a rocky relationship for years. We don't speak often, despite living in the same house, and our work schedules are pretty opposite, so we typically can naturally avoid one another. 7. When I said occasionally contribute, I meant when I have time. I work 50, 60-hour weeks, and by the time I go to do something, it often is already done. I do my best to help out, despite those of you who think I don't do anything. My mom is also the kind of person who constantly refuses help and gets upset if you insist on helping, so I don't push it to save everyone's sanity. Thank you so much to everyone who is saying congratulations and nice things. I really do appreciate it. Now, for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. She claims they never helped her with anything. How about a free place to live? That's a luxury, to be honest, and not very many people get that opportunity. Hell, there's kids who are turning 18 and saying their own parents will be charging them rent. Not the idiot. Just ignore your sister and don't engage. She's just upset because you're getting something she isn't. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Point out to your sister that you aren't doing anything to stop her from buying a house. She needs to go to her credit union bank and get pre-qualified for a mortgage. They'll tell her what they're willing to lend her. Then she should start looking. Something tells me they won't lend her much, if at all, if she's that bad with her money. That should shut her up. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, it's been about a month since my last post, and I wanted to give you all an update on what's been happening. First off, thank you so much for all the support and kind words in the comments. It really meant a lot to me during this stressful time. So, the closing date for the house finally arrived, and I was able to move in without any major issues. It was a bit of a hectic process trying to pack up all my belongings and get everything sorted, but I managed to get it done with the help of some friends. My parents were also there to lend a hand, which I appreciated, even though things were still a bit tense between us after the whole situation with my sister. Speaking of my sister, things have only gotten worse since my last post. She's been giving me the cold shoulder and making snide comments whenever we cross paths. It's gotten to the point where I try to avoid being in the same room as her whenever possible. I know she's upset about the house, but I wish she could just be happy for me instead of making everything so difficult. One thing I didn't mention in my previous post is that my sister and I have always had a bit of a competitive relationship. Growing up, she was always the one who excelled at everything: sports, academics, you name it. I, on the other hand, struggled to keep up and often felt like I was living in her shadow. I think that's part of the reason why this whole house situation has hit her so hard. She sees it as just another example of me getting something that she doesn't have. But what she doesn't realize is that I've worked hard to get to where I am. I may not make as much money as her, but I've been diligent about saving and making smart financial decisions. It's not like this house just fell into my lap. I had to go through the same process as anyone else would. Anyway, I've been trying my best to settle into my new place and make it feel like home. It's been a bit of an adjustment, living on my own for the first time, but I'm slowly getting used to it. I've been spending a lot of time unpacking and decorating, trying to put my own personal touch on everything. One thing I didn't anticipate was how lonely it can feel at times. I'm so used to being surrounded by my family, even if we didn't always get along. Now, coming home to an empty house every day is a bit of a shock to the system. I've been trying to combat that by inviting friends over and making an effort to get out and socialize more, but it's still a work in progress. As for my relationship with my parents, things are slowly starting to improve. We've had a few heart-to-heart conversations about everything that's happened, and I think they're starting to understand where I'm coming from. They've apologized for not respecting my wishes when it came to telling my sister about the house, and I've apologized for not being more understanding of their position. I know that rebuilding our relationship is going to take time, but I'm hopeful that we'll get there eventually. In the meantime, I'm just trying to focus on settling into my new life and making the most of this opportunity that I've been given. Thank you again for all the support and advice. It really means a lot to me. If you liked this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.